Hi guys, how is it going? Welcome back to my channel, and yes, for all my new subscribers, I'm Natalia Suri. I do book related videos. You'll find book reviews, author interviews, plus historical, mythological and cultural mysteries, and especially my sessions with tantrics, witches, voodoo practitioners. You'll find all this on my channel here. Today, my guest is Jane D'Souza. She's known as the funniest writer in India, but I'll be talking to her on the genre of comedy, humor, plus a book, Flyaway Boy. And I'm really looking forward to this session to laugh till I drop. So come, let us talk to her. Hi, Jane. How are you? And welcome to my channel.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
No, the pleasure is completely mine, and I'm looking forward to today's session, which I have based it around your book Flyaway Boy and the genre of comedy. Right.
Right. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So many people have compared your book to the movie Tare Zameen Par. How would you say that the book Flyaway Boy is similar and different from the movie?
So Flyaway Boy.
Yeah.
Actually, it has a blurb on the cover by Amol Gupta, who's the Amol Gupte, who is the screenwriter of Tare Zameen Par. Okay, so he says wonderful things about it. But how is it similar? Only on a surface level, because both stories are about a boy. Both stories are about a child who's different. Okay? From there on, the stories are different, because Flyaway Boy is about Kabir, and it is on two levels. So if kids read it, for example, it's an adventure. At some point, it builds up and Kabir disappears. For adults, and if you see the reviews on Amazon, all by adults, it's on a different level, because it's about what's individual, what's unique in each of us, and how society actually suffocates that, puts it down early in life. And so when Kabir disappears, it is actually a disappearing of all that is, exciting and unique in our dreams. And we're actually sacrificing all that just to be one of the crowd. So it makes us question our prejudices, our preconceived notions about what's good, bad, who is smart. That's what Flyaway Boy is about.
Okay. Your character, Kabir, wants to go out and explore the world, but his parents and teachers want him to stick to the rules. You feel it is correct to follow the rules, or a child should be left free to do his or her own will?
Okay, rules are important. Okay, I'm not going to advocate and have all the teachers down on me saying that go break rules. Not at all true. Rules are important for discipline and for reasons. Okay, so this book is about grids. The grids, about boxes, about labels, more than just rules. It's about not pushing all of us to fit into one small box, because we are so different, and yet we are judged by the same parameters that everybody is judged by the same parameters. How successful, how achieving, how blah blah, right? So there is this scene, for example, in the book, in Flyaway Boy, where the art teacher says, okay class, draw a duck. So Kabir, who is this different kid, differently wired, he draws a river and it has two yellow things sticking out. Teacher said, what's that? So he said, my duck's diving. Those are its legs, sticking out of the water. And she says, oh Kabir, don't give me trouble again, please. See, take your paper, now draw a 2 and turn it around. And now see, what a nice duck you drew. That's how we all were taught, right? Draw the duck. So it's about forcing kids to think in a certain way right from young.
Okay. We follow the West in everything. Then why are we so insecure about our children? And the only parameter we say our children are good or bad are through the grades which a child gets in school. And where does this insecurity in the parents come from?
Okay, talking about the West has, many Western countries have a kind of minimum wage. So that means any job you get, you can encourage your kid to do anything, because even, I mean, you see when we're on holiday, you'll see a plumber who's taking a foreign holiday. Okay, a Western plumber, because every job gives you a certain minimum wage. Okay, there is job security. And for example, here in Singapore, where I am right now, if I want to call in a plumber, I have to pay $150. That's 7,500 Indian rupees for even half an hour of his time. He comes in, he tokos one nail, a carpenter, anybody, straight away, 7,500. So that is the kind of inequalities that exist right now for us Indian parents. So we all want our kids to be assured of a certain level of education, and so that when we carry on to the great beyond, we know that our kids are safe. And unfortunately, that's not true nowadays, because music directors, game programmers, everybody is making a living and everybody is happy with their lives. But parents have not yet moved into that. We are not ready to let go.
But do you think with time this will happen, parents will let go?
I think it's happening already. There are many schools who are alternative thinking and who are not just forcing the kids at the end of it to go and do your GRE or SAT or something like that. There are already schools which are encouraging different skills, because some kids are so talented in different things, right? Even in say comedy. There are comic artists who are making millions out there, who are flying around the world on talk shows. There are so many different, and I think parents are letting go right now.
Okay. Now my question is around your genre of human comedy, which is the genre which you write. So like there is a difference between Western horror and Indian horror. So according to you, there is a difference between Western comedy and Indian comedy, or it's just the same?
Oh no, it's different. It's very different, because comedy, out of many genres, is the one that dips in most into your culture. It's a cultural context. We will sit bland face in Japan and not get any of their jokes. Yeah. So some of the greatest comic novels, for example, P.G. Wodehouse wrote all about these British lords and ladies, which nowadays kids don't get. Okay. But if there are Italian mafia lords. So Italian kids growing up will get this. So this book of mine, The Spy Who Lost Her Head, for example, this is an example of Indian comedy, because it's about a village girl who goes and finds herself in big city bright lights in Mumbai, and she gets embroiled in a murder somehow. So, and it is rip-roaringly funny because of all the situations she goes, and we as Indians are sitting back and looking at her, and we are getting it. We can imagine immediately what situations she will come across, how she will speak, what are the things that completely astonish her. So comedy has to be a mirror to society and to society's cracks, and it is very culture specific. So we will get, for example, obsession with maids. Nobody else gets it right now. Everybody we know is sitting in the lockdown and like, oh my God, the person I miss most is my maid. Yeah. So it is a cultural thing.
Subgenres of comedy, which one do you choose and why in connection with the Indian writers? And which one do you think they do pretty well, such as screwball comedy, black comedy, satire, romantic, sarcasm? Which one do you think the Indian writers do pretty well?
So judging from all the WhatsApp jokes that come around, I think we are. I think those guys are the ones who are absolutely awesome, because those are really LOL funny. They are really, really funny, more than those who are trying to be funny and write, or many of the film scripts too are not as instinctive and impulsive as some of these WhatsApp jokes. But talking about myself, how I started this whole journey of writing books started when I had my first kid, actually, and I was in a lockdown, but it was self-imposed. I was a person who was roaming all around and having fun, and suddenly I'm at home with this little thing, and he's screaming and he's yelling and he's God all the time. He needs me. So at that point of time, I began to blog. Hey Jane, kidding. And I began to actually blog about my own frustrations. Obviously humor is my voice. Funny ways, how I couldn't lose weight and how I have these chocolate urges and how the things I feel like doing something. And strangely, the more self-deprecating that it was, the more humor directed against me, the more people put up their hands out there, readers, and said, this is me. So that empathy actually was the humor angle in that. However, I use other kinds of humor. For example, I write a column for The Hindu, a newspaper column, weekend, and there I use satire. Because I cannot depend only on those who are like-minded, say women like me, like in this book. Okay, I wrote a book called Happily Ever After, based on women, on all our frustrations, how we want to achieve dreams and we are stuck with blocked pipes or plumbing, that kind of thing. But in the column, I use satire, which is looking at our hypocrisies in a subtle way, at the funny things that are happening in life around us. Taking a pot shot at that.
Okay. And what are the characteristics of a comedy novel, according to you, that they have to have an happy ending? What are the main characteristics of a comedy novel, which you would say?
Okay, so mirror to society, definitely. Okay. That is really good humor, more than just the situational, more than just, okay, so and so meets so and falls in love and something funny happens. That's very contrived. I think anybody could write that. But real intelligent comedy, and comedy needs to be intelligent, is actually a mirror to society, as you said, and it's very dependent on observation. So I think one of the, as a humorist, one of the best characters you have, like I'm a great eavesdropper. I sit in cafes and I look at what's happening on that table, I try to imagine, are they husband and wife or husband and secretary, husband and wife, sister, these are the kind of things that, and observation. So the difference between men and women, like if you notice even little kids on a playground, it starts there. Girls will be full of emotional blackmail, even 3-year-olds, I noticed. Okay, 5-year-olds will be saying, okay, you don't talk to her, and if you talk to her, you're not my friend and all that. Okay, boys, if they have a problem, fist fights. So it's about observation. It's about, all the truths, the life's truths that are common, like the Winnie the Poohs. Everyone says nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day. So it's actually about deep truths, but that's what good humor is about. And it's also about writing in comedy is about a comic sense of timing. It's about comic timing and a certain suspense. If you notice the same joke told by different people, some really fall flat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that some people, they know when to stop, they know when to pause, then when your reader or your audience is ready for that situation. You prepared all the ground for the bomb to drop.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things. It's also about empathy. Like I told you about Happily Never After. It's about other people seeing themselves in there and being able to, pick out of that.
You're called India's funniest writer. Can humor be learnt according to you? And where does a sense of humor come from?
Yeah, this is what, been asked. Can it be learnt? Yes. Can it be learnt through a 30 days and improve your humor class? No. Online crash course or get your money back. You will get your money back because it cannot be learnt like that. I think humor can be learnt. It is learnt because none of us, no babies come out laughing we come out screaming. That's what we do. But humor is the earliest response mechanism that we have, that I have. When we're very small, we all have different coping mechanisms, right? Some people learn to deal with the world in anger. Some just withdraw. Some use charm, just smile their way through things, be very friendly, please people. So I think for me, and my friend, a psychologist, has pointed this out to me, that somewhere early in life, I saw somebody, probably my dad, who was dealing with life's situations and troubles through humor. And somehow I absorbed that. That, this too can be a way. This too can be a way to fend off rude people, nasty people, hurt. Laugh it off or make a joke about it. And if it was successful, if any of our coping mechanisms are successful before the age of 7, that's what we continue through all our life. But later on, we develop it too. It can be developed, it can be learned through things like I mentioned, noticing little things about people, observing, empathy. I think it can be learned.
Have you ever come across such classes, Learn Humor?
Sorry?
Have you ever come across such classes where you can learn humor?
I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find. I'm convinced that anything is on the web right now. Any classes about how to clip your toenails is on the web somewhere. I'm telling you. How to build a sense of humor. I'm sure there will be people trying to make money off it. Yeah.
Okay. And how is humor helpful in daily life, especially in today's difficult times?
Yeah. Wow. So when let me ask you, when you get a really funny WhatsApp joke, or when you're watching a really funny episode on TV or reading something funny, what happens to you? What do?
I laugh and I smile.
Yeah. So you laugh. At that point of time, you're raising all the chemicals in your mind that makes that stress busting, right? And for that point in time, you're actually forgetting about the stresses, whoever has job losses, job cuts, maids not coming, hair fall, weight gain, whatever it is, you're forgetting all that. Will I get COVID? Will someone I love get COVID? All the stresses are suddenly burst out. So humor is really, really important. I don't know what else is as important as just, having a good belly laugh. It's also very important to be among friends. If you notice, you're attracted towards people who are funny. More than people, if you have friends, for example, who are always, morose or always ready to criticize you, you'll be going towards them less and less. Your calls will get less frequent. But if you find somebody who's funny, they're automatically drawn towards them because that will make you feel good. Yeah. The other way in which humor, I talked about this earlier, is really helpful is if you're attacked verbally by someone who's saying, there are all sorts of people and they're in all sorts of moods nowadays, so you can't judge them. But people say critical things, harsh things, racist things, all sorts of. And if you allow yourself to respond in anger, then it just takes that right up there. But if you notice, if you laugh it off, or you turn it, or you say something funny, or flip it back, it completely settles down. It's like rain. It suddenly rains on a hot desert. And lastly, there's a saying, I'm not sure who it's by. I think it's by George Bernard Shaw, Mark Twain, one of these. They're all the famous quotes, when I can't remember who said it, I just attribute it to, because these guys said so many brilliant things. He said, humor, through writing and humor, I make you laugh and then I make you think. So I think that's how I, especially in my books, use humor, because I use it to make a very strong, very powerful, very serious point. But I slip it into humor so that people don't realize. Like in Fly Away Boy, it is about this point that, we are all such different people and yet we are all suffocated and stuffed together and judged by the same brush, tarred by the same brush. That kind of point. In Happily Never After, it's about loneliness that each of us feels. So, very, very strong points. But if I write a book like that, serious, the book's written, but it's just going to be a sobby book. A sobby, weepy book. but it's easy to make a point.
Learning through humor, and I'm sure everybody would love that.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you again for the time, and it was really a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, this was great fun. Thank you for having me on your channel.
Thank you.
So guys, we were in conversation with Jane D'Souza. You have questions or you have any comments, you can email me on my email address given below. Do share views. And yes, don't forget to press that subscribe button. It is always encouraging to see those figures going up. And yes, I want to share another thing. If you want to know why do ladies use the red nail polish, do check out my blog www.nataliasuri.com. And yes, do tune in my next video, which I will be posting in very soon. And the most important thing, don't forget to smile. You look beautiful when you smile. Take care of yourself. Bye. See you soon.